panic. We know we have a lot of new people in the area, and it's gonna be okay. You're gonna help us through it with your guidance and wisdom. So allow us to get done your business here today and proceed in your will. Thank you, Father. Amen.
Amen. I'm calling the workshop to order for today, which is September 27th. I want to make a note that Ms. Kirkus is attending the meeting via the phone. Ms. Kirkus, are you there?
I am, thank you, and I apologize for not being there in person.
Thank you. And it's good to hear your voice, even though we can't see your face. So there you go. The rest of us are here. Before we begin, before I turn it over to Mr. Brodsky, I just wanted to mention that we all know that an election is coming up in November. And as a school board, we voted to put the 1 mil on the continuation of the 1 mil on that ballot. And on behalf of the school board, I do believe it is time for us to direct Mr. Brodsky and his team to start providing information to the citizens of Clay County for this continuation. If there's no opposition to that, this is a decision that's going to be made by the citizens, and we want them to have as much information as we can possibly get to them so that they can make an informed decision to continue the mill for the safety and security of our children. Is there any comment on that from the board? So with that, Mr. Brodsky, we are directing you to provide the information to the community, if you would, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'll go ahead and I'll have staff put some information together to put out to the community.
That would be very helpful. Appreciate it. Now, Mr. Brodsky, would you tell us what we are anticipating for our meeting on October 6th?
Okay, October 6th, we've got Keystone Heights Elementary School being there for
Woo! In the house.
Awesome. And we also have the American Heart Association there for recognition portion of it. So going through the agenda, the very first item is our minutes for our workshop, our student discipline hearings and regular meeting. Any questions on the minutes? The next item is the out-of-county travel expenses for the FSBA FADS Annual Joint Conference. Just a little note, the FADS conference for this week obviously canceled. So hopefully we'll have good weather. It's out of hurricane season. Next is the
Excuse me, Mrs. Bola.
Yes.
I'm having trouble hearing Mr. Brodsky.
Mr. Brodsky, please speak
I will
up.
speak louder. I'll go in my New York voice.
Use your teacher voice.
Use your teacher voice.
Okay. Personnel consent agenda.
Is that better? Ms. Kick, oh, sorry, go ahead.
On the personnel consent agenda, one item that I bring to the board's attention is that there'll be a job description on there for a coordinator of accounting. You realize that when we go with a self-funded insurance program, one of the things that happens is that the accounting for all of those transactions then goes to the board rather than the insurance company, and therefore an additional position will be needed in order to ensure that that goes smoothly. I've noticed that employees have received their Scripps card, their pharmacy card in the mail, as well as their renewal of their UHC cards are in the mail. So remember that starts October 1st is the first active date. Next is the ratification of the contract between CCA and the School Board of Clay County. We're very proud to have settled the contract with CCA. We believe that it's a fair contract that provides salary increases and even tries to target our veteran teachers in the process. This will be the vote on that contract. So very proud of that, very proud of the generosity of the board in relation to our employees.
Now, they're voting on that next week, if I'm not mistaken?
They're voting on the 3rd, Monday
Awesome.
the 3rd.
Awesome.
Is their vote.
And I'd just like to compliment Ms. Troutman and her team for the creative ideas that they came up with. Very impressive.
Nice.
Thank you.
It's about time they got somebody good up there.
You get what you pay for, right?
Thank
I
you all so much.
had a great team and lots of help. Great team and lots of help.
All right, elementary student out-of-state travel is the next item, followed by the junior high, senior high out-of-state travel.
I think it's a good time to be an Oak Leaf High School band student. Did I see Hawaii?
Yeah,
Why? Do they need?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm at the top of the list for that, so you'll.
okay, next is our dual enrollment articulation agreement with First Coast Technical College. And that one is followed by our agreement with Clay County Fire Rescue. You know that our CTE EMR students from Orange Park High School, they do ride-alongs. They were doing ride-alongs with Liberty. And we're proud that Clay County Fire Rescue now will be the provider of those ride-alongs for those students. And just having a son that did that very same thing in the ride-alongs, it's a great program, and we're looking forward to providing these opportunities for our students for future careers here in Clay County. Next, we have our affiliation agreement with Clay County Schools and Oklahoma State University. This is a standard agreement to bring students in for internships, practicums, and observations. Next, we have a proclamation for Red Ribbon Week. Red Ribbon Week will be October 23rd through 31st. And this year's theme is Celebrate Life, Live Drug-Free. Of course, the drug-free message should be shouted from the hilltops to our students.
Mr. Brusky, in
Yes,
light of the recent, I'm sure you guys all saw the recent drug bust with Clay County Sheriff's Office and the fentanyl problem, and the fentanyl that I saw in the photograph looks like candy.
Sweet tarts.
Yeah.
And I think they're calling it sweet tarts, if I'm not mistaken.
Are they really?
Yeah.
It was just very concerning, and I just wondered, as a school
Yeah.
district.
Yeah, we'll be focusing on that and making sure that students are aware of that as part of that program. It's
I would
important to
honestly-
note that just a very small amount, like a very, very, very tiny amount, I probably can't even demonstrate it to you, is enough to kill somebody.
Right, especially a child. And so I guess where I was headed with that was, I feel like as a school district, a partnership with the sheriff's department to reach parents with this information would be prudent, I think. I know as a parent, I want to have those conversations with my kids. I think, it's important that the school district talks about those things too, but I think really making sure that parents are aware.
So we can certainly provide information to take home related to.
Chief Wagner, do you know if the sheriff's office is doing any additional public outreach?
Other than the Hammer and Hope that has
Right.
been gone on recently, I'm sure that another round of that will be coming. The first area was targeted was Clay Hill, then it was Keystone. So I'm sure that that will be coming back around. Just for the board's visibility, the law changed where schools can now have Narcan on their campuses.
Good.
All of our officers just went through Narcan training, so every officer at every school has a Narcan training and has Narcan on their persons.
And our school nurses too, also went through the training and the ability to distribute.
The
that.
Clay Action Coalition may be a good partner for making sure that our parents are aware of the most recent developments. They're usually on it, so we can reach out to them as well.
I know it's been in the news nationally as well, and they're showing lots of pictures of it and that sort of thing. However, sometimes you have to hit people with a 2x4 to get them to hear it.
And
Yes.
frankly, there's a lot of people who don't watch the mainstream news.
No.
So I think,
Absolutely not, yeah.
but they are paying attention to their kids' school. So I think that that's a way that we can make sure parents are aware that, this is a,
Have insurance gone out yet? We could add it as a comment, seriously. I mean, as an act, a note, be aware, sort of. I mean, just any information, just for information purposes.
Yeah, we'd be glad to put that.
We don't want-
information out
yeah.
to parents. Okay, next is our SEDNet contract. This is a pass-through contract with Lutheran Services of Florida. If you ever seen that program, it's an excellent program,
is.
helping many students in need.
Absolutely.
Next is the proposed allocation changes. Not much, change there. Next is the NSF write-off permission. This is for a check that's out of date, and you can see the individual and the amount. It's a homeschool student. Next is the deletion of certain items report. That's followed by the bid for unleaded gasoline. You can see the contract there with undyed diesel and dyed diesel fuel. Next, kind of related, is our interlocal agreement for low-priced diesel fuel in the Keystone area for the Board of County Commissioners. Long-standing agreement. Next, I'm particularly proud of our operations department. You're going to see the completion of many projects that are happening, many projects still underway related to our facilities. First one is the final completion for the restrooms at Ridgeview High School. They look marvelous. Next is the final completion of W.E. Cherry, which was the spalling remediation and roof replacement. That project too. W.E. Cherry is one of our older facilities. Next is a change order for Orange Park High School stadium repair. I believe that everyone's aware. I think this Friday was supposed to be the last home game, and then the demolishing of the home stadium side and the rebuilding of that before graduation will occur, right, Bryce?
Yes.
Okay, good answer.
Mr. Borowski, and I think I think if they don't play their game Friday night, they're gonna play it Monday, but it'll be at Ridgeview. Somebody's already asked me, why is Orange Park playing somebody at Ridgeview? And the answer is because there'll be people there. So just in case anybody has that question.
Thank you.
Next, we have the change order for Orange Park High School front entrance. It's looking great. Interestingly enough, the architect, Eric Casper, is a student at Orange Park High School.
Awesome.
And it's just nice to actually walk in there, and it actually looks like it makes sense.
Oh, good.
Before, when you walked into Orange Park High School's main office, the way that the offices were arranged really didn't make much sense. It was kind of like a maze of confusion, like where those offices were. Now it actually looks like, hey, it makes sense, it's very organized. It's looking great, and the date is, I think, October 17th, I think was the date, and final sign off on that is in November. So that's a project, that's the last of the single point of entry projects that we've worked on. Next is the direct purchasing for Spring Park Elementary. We purchased the material, the district purchased materials. This particular item is about a cost savings of almost $600,000 by doing it this way, where we purchase it, the product, and move forward. So everything that's, you can see by the attachment how that works on the filled piece of paper. Next is Green Cove Springs window and HVAC replacement. Green Cove Springs is one of our older facilities, the replacement of the HVAC. Some of those are actually window units requiring the window to also be replaced at the same time. Next is final completion for Shadowline Elementary, the re-roofing project there. Okay. Next is Ridgeview High School HVAC replacement, the contract awarded for that. You can see operations has been busy. Next is the countywide civil engineering contract. You can see it's awarded to JD Pro, Matthews, and Decoy engineering. And then we have the pre-qualification of contractors. And then at this time, there's no discussion items and no special actions at this time. So that kind of completes the agenda review, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Brodsky. And now the general question that we're all probably sitting here thinking about is this wonderful storm coming up
Yes, ma'am.
the Gulf called Ian.
Yes,
I feel
ma'am.
sorry for any child who has the name of Ian, because they're either going to be praised because kids are going to get out of school, or...
So yes, we've had several meetings at the Emergency Operations Center, probably about 6 or 8 different meetings. We're going to make a final decision on school closures right after the 10 o'clock meeting. It's our final opportunity to gauge the storm. There definitely decisions are made, based on the need for shelters. In our county, we take care of our citizens with special needs. Lake Asbury Junior High, for example, is the school building that handles that. And so most definitely, school will be canceled. It most definitely will be canceled Thursday, Friday. We're looking at the advancement of the storm to make that final determination for Wednesday. And a decision be made and announced way before noon today. We recognize the need to tell families in enough time to make those decisions for their families, and so that is the plan. I think there's a press conference at 2:30 today, and I know that we're meeting with our shelter principals. Remember, we provide shelter operations at Wilkinson Elementary School, Orange Park High School, Keystone Heights High School, Clay High School, and Lake Asbury Junior High as our special needs shelter. I'll let the announcement of those kinds of things come from John Ward in Emergency Management, but the school is an integral part of that because we help to transport people to that facility that are medically fragile. We also provide food through our food service folks. We provide security through our police department. Our administrators and staff man those shelters away from their own family. So I'd like to think that Clay County District School does its part as a valued partner in our community, and so that decision will come forward. It's not one that I take particularly lightly. My wife Sue will tell you that I kind of sit there and I go back and forth, and I'm a research individual. And so, but we're always going to err on the side of safety and caution for students and families. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So I appreciate the patience of everybody, and believe me, you'll know after the 10 o'clock meeting.
Awesome. And just something that I learned from a school board perspective that I didn't really understand as a teacher when I was in a classroom was the fact that the administrators do man those facilities, and that it's a shared opportunity with not just the administrators from that building, but also some of the other local schools around that building, or the feeder schools into those buildings as well. And the cafeteria, the food service people, huge gold star for them as well. Because I remember going into Lake Asbury Junior and seeing the facility, and we were walking around for the last hurricane preparation, and the cafeteria director, that particular cafeteria leader, manager, was making pots of coffee. And she said, the people that I get in my shelter are generally older and they like fresh coffee. And I'm going to have fresh coffee for these people any time of the day or night. I mean, they take such pride in helping people. And that just is huge to me. I mean, that is the epitome of Clay County and the schools that we have. And it's just such a blessing to have those people working with us. And a huge shout out and thank you ahead of time. as we probably will be realizing some of that this week, so.
Yes, ma'am.
And just from it, I played bunco last night with a few teachers from WD Cherry, so I'm just telling you, the sooner the better, as soon as they find out. They kept asking me, and I was like, I know nothing, I know nothing.
You're right. Yeah, the announcement was made right after that 10 o'clock meeting,
Awesome, thank you so much.
Regarding the school closure on Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Okay, very cool, thank you so much. Mr. Bickner, do you have anything to share with us today? Ms. Karakas, would you like to start us off?
I saw in the Clay today, there was an article about our welding room at Orange Park High School, and everybody remembers me complaining about that for years and years. And Sherman Smith and the wonderful job that they are doing with the kids there. Just want to give a shout out and thank facilities for making all that possible. Other than that, I have nothing. I wish everybody to be safe during this hurricane, take precautions, and just take care of your families. And Mr. Brodsky, thank you for making the call sooner rather than later.
Yes,
That's all.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Karakas. Ms. Clark?
A couple of housekeeping ideas, comments. I had received a call from someone in Duval that the governor appointed, and she was curious, I guess she got worried regarding our charter schools and extracurricular activities, and that they may not be able to participate this year. And I told her I don't think that's going to be the case. So can you update us on?
Sure, we reached back out through our school choice office with Karen McMillan to clarify any misconceptions about that. Obviously, we have a long-standing tradition, whatever events charter schools have participated in the past, they'll participate in that way. I think athletics is a new venture. Of course, students can participate in athletics at their school. If they choose to not participate in their school, then they would have to go to their home school, or they're attending their attendance zone school. It's the way that the statute reads under 1002.20. I'm doing my best Kate Bickner imitation. 18C. So that's kind of the way that works.
Yeah, I didn't know if a letter went out initially, how people got the wrong idea, but as long as the word has gotten out.
I think so, and I know that Ms. McMillan had communicated through leadership at the schools also. And sometimes what happens is individuals move from one part of the district to the other. And I think in that particular case was an individual that worked within the district managed schools that worked in the charter.
Okay. All right. Because I wanted to make sure I was the right info when I called.
Yes.
The other thing, I was reading the Ed First notes, and there was one thing that bothered me. And I think down the road, we ought to have a discussion on the agenda that we're making, whether we're going to have to work with Dr. Legutko to make sure we're not taking from funds that we shouldn't take from just because we're relying on the Ed First money. We want to make sure that that is additional money. It's not that we're now using what would have been construction and such and just relying on Ed First. So anyway, if we could just at some point address that and make sure that we're putting it all in the right buckets and not taking from one and for the other. So I don't know, who made this statement, but I'll get with Ms. Ellison.
That was from the minutes from the most recent meeting?
Yeah. So it was just a little alarming. I assume it came from someone on the committee, but I hope that's not happening. But I'm still, I want to put it on the agenda that we push for whether we get somebody to be a lobbyist for us, however we address it, so that we can ask the state for the funds that we really need for these older schools and with help for the new construction, because we are going to be hit with a ton of grant when we do ready.
And in looking at our legislative priorities, we need to start working on those now so that we're ready for that in January, even though I believe this year's session is going to be later. We usually either are in January or March, if I'm not mistaken. But that was, Ms. Karakas, you mentioned that in one of our budget meetings, as I believe as well. You said this needs to be one of our legislative priorities, and it had to do with the construction,
The rise in
the
price.
dollars, and the fact that, yeah.
Yeah, lower income area,
Mhm.
a lot of growth and a lot of older schools, so we're
Yep.
eligible.
It is important to get our legislative priorities in order. You're right, Mary, sooner rather than later, and finalize what we would like and what we want to ask for. Just remember, we're not the only ones asking for funding for growth and for schools, and we really are so fortunate that we do have the sales tax, and that First Plan does lay out where that money can go. We all know it can only be used on capital projects. So I'm not sure where they think that the money's going to something that it shouldn't be, because it was in the referendum, it's the way it was voted, and now it's in statute, so we're mandated to do that. So, thank you.
Got it. Yep.
So do we want to bring our legislative priorities to the November board meeting?
November would probably be a good start,
Okay.
and then we can tweak before. I'm not certain when we're going to have our meeting with Representative Garrison and Senator Bradley. And I believe Bobby Payne still?
He's still
Is he running this year? Yes.
He is
Okay,
running.
thank you. I
think
think
he
about
has
that. But and I know that meeting usually comes up before the session begins. But that's a good place to at least introduce it so that people know that we're asking as well. So many times people say, well, this is your job to ask. And it's like, okay, we're gonna lay the foundation, but we need the public's input as well to these same individuals to tell them how important this is as well, so.
And to Ms. Clark's point, I think it would be worthwhile looking into the cost and benefit analysis of hiring a lobbyist in Tallahassee. I think what I would like to see before we make a financial decision like that is what are our surrounding counties doing and what have they gained from having a lobbyist versus those counties who don't have a lobbyist. What does their annual, advantage or lack thereof?
And I know two of our surrounding counties, St. John's and Duval, both have lobbyists on their staff.
Right.
And I know that we've relied on them, quite frankly, to bring us some information from Tallahassee as well as the FSBA lobbyist.
Where is that position housed in their districts, do you know?
In the school, I can
Like
get
what
the specific.
I would want to know what
I can
office.
get the specific, I would assume in the superintendent's office, but I'm
It
not
does,
certain.
they answer to the superintendent.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And multiple districts use Kim McDougall, and we all know her from FSBA.
Right.
She's very effective, so you may want to look into reaching out to her and get a bid from her.
I have spoken to her many times at FSBA, and we've had a lobbyist in the past.
Well, and it matters who your lobbyist is.
Absolutely.
Those relationships are so key.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know, that's what I would like to see. I'd like to see the cost benefit analysis, and I'd like to see, who the top lobbyists for school districts are in the state as far as their effectiveness. Because, while I realize price point has to be considered, at the same time, return on investment needs to be considered as well. So just because you hire a more affordable lobbyist doesn't mean that you're going to get the money in return.
Correct. The last time we had a lobbyist was 2016.
Okay.
Because
I didn't remember what year. I know we
It
had
was
one.
26, because I had just come on the school board.
Okay.
And that's the only reason why, and that probably would have been 2016, 2017. And if we could get a historical perspective, I'm not certain where that might lie, Ms. Sonora, as to who we've used in the past as well. Because I know Kim's in a group, and there are a number of group companies, whatever, but then the individuals within those groups have specialties as well.
You might also want to look back when we did have that lobby firm, I can't remember the name of them, Strategic something.
Southern Strategy.
Southern Strategies, that's it, yes.
Because Southern Strategies, because I think if I remember, I think we felt that it wasn't as effective as we would have liked it to be.
Right, correct. And it was, I mean, we were going through leadership changes at that time as well, so there were, yeah.
And
It was-
I think it would be worthwhile too to ask for recommendations from legislators who they
Oh,
prefer
yeah.
to work with.
Yes.
So,
See if they've
I
had
think
good
there's-
results with the,
correct,
and what the benefits have been.
And they do know them.
yes.
I mean, at the last Clay Day in Tallahassee, Sam Garrison grabbed the legislative liaison from FSBA who I had not met yet. And he was like, and you know her, and she'll tell you that I'm not serious about, you know, I thought, no, she's going to tell, anyway, we won't go there. But yeah, and we can call FSBA too for recommendations as well, names, recommendations of ideas on what they've accomplished as well. I'm certain that's available, so.
Yes, I think, you know, we need to do our homework, obviously it's an investment, but at the same
Absolutely.
time, I think that the return on the cost could be advantageous for the district.
And we may be coming to that time because of the construction dollars and because we are doing everything we can at this stage.
Right.
I mean, have we absolutely looked under every stone, turned every stone over to see what's available to us, and now we need to ask for more?
Because I think there's only 98 registered in the state of Florida. Obviously, they all have their specialty, but
Right.
with the construction costs being 50% plus more, you know, we see a slowdown, we see supplies catching up, but now we've got to catch up.
Right.
So,
And I think it
Appreciate
would help us tremendously to work with a lobbyist as we form our legislative priorities, because they have their finger on the pulse of what's being considered in the House and the Senate and the
And-
appropriations committees.
We should also be receiving some of the information from FSBA as to what the other school districts within the state are asking as legislative priorities, not to mirror them necessarily, but to maybe
So you can get an idea.
Well,
see
and
what,
to know
see
it-
what the other concerns are, and if we're asking for the same stuff, we need to have a different way of asking for it.
Exactly, you need to
Right.
know, because you're all competing for the same funding.
Correct, correct.
So,
It all goes to Tallahassee, yes.
but hopefully if enough counties do it, the state will get a message.
Yes, that's the other side of it, yes. Got it, awesome. So that was Miss Clark. Anything else, Miss Clark?
Well,
If I'm keeping this all organized. Ms. Gilhousen, anything further?
nothing from me.
Awesome. Ms. Bullock?
Just want to give a shout out to the district bargaining team and to CCEA. I'm so excited that they're gonna sign and the contract, and just that we'll continue to push on for our employees, both our CCEA and our CESPA people, the salaries, just to continue to strive for, so we get the very best, and because they're so good at our rating, especially we've gone through a lot of, what's the word, unprecedented times. And we need to, you know, they've adjusted and been flexible through all of that, so
Yes.
that's, I think but anyway, shout out to both of you, so, thank you.
And I hate to ask, but how are we doing with teachers and bus drivers?
Yeah, we're still, hovering about 25 teachers. Remember, sometimes you hire teachers, but other ones leave. Not really anything different than the historical. About 360 teachers a year has been the average. We started off with about 310 to start, which would tell me that if history repeats itself, which it often does, it's about 50 in movement during the year. So you might hire somebody, but then have somebody else create another opening, a different opening, so to speak. No doubt, recruitment and retention of teachers is a big challenge. Not sure if you saw the $7 million grant that was given to UNF on this very topic, and they're partnering with Clay County Schools. That's a big shout out to Jenny Shepherd and her group and folks related to that. Forging that partnership with our local major university is important for recruitment and retention of teachers. So we're very proud of that. When it comes to bus drivers, we've hired 22 since July.
Awesome.
So we're continuing to work on that. It's awesome, but then some have left since then, right? If they all stayed, then the math would be good, right? So we were able to reduce the number of double backs because of the hiring. It's still a, you know, as superintendent, I just need to tell you, you know, labor shortages are a real thing. They're a real thing, you know, there's no doubt. I'm not minimizing them at all, but I'm also recognizing with great pride the effort of the folks that are in those positions, working hard every day to do a good job for our students and our families. So that'll be a continual thing. I don't see an end to that, you know, and we'll continue to manage it best possible service for our constituents.
Thank you. And noticing we're going to Oklahoma, I love the fact that, not going to, but working with, I think it was Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken. It would be interesting to know how many states we are now working through for our teacher group, because I know that we have done definitely contracts with a variety of universities and colleges throughout the country. And it's awesome. Whatever way we can find teachers to come to Florida, definitely do whatever we can. So, and our state teacher of the year, Melissa Matz, came from Iowa. I mean, let's look at it, you know, it's all over the place. So
That particular partnership with Oklahoma and partnerships like that, are we generally servicing their online students, or are those students coming to us from Oklahoma?
Those students are through that university. It could be an online student that
Sure.
then is doing their practicum or their observation within our schools.
Okay.
So we established that affiliation agreement. I even remember Ms. Bola going recruiting with Neil Sanders in Michigan.
yeah,
Like actually flying up there to go and recruit, and that's, you know, many
that's
years
right.
ago. So
Yeah.
the recruitment of teachers is really, you know, nothing new, and the challenges are great. And I just appreciate the partnerships that we have.
Absolutely. I don't believe there's anything more coming up. We're looking forward to hearing from you after the 10 o'clock meeting, Mr. Brodsky. On that note, before I'm going to gavel, but making certain everybody said everything, right, Ms. Karakas?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, one more thing. No. On that note, we are adjourned. Thanks, Ms. Karakas.
Have a great day.
You too.